Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today I'm gonna talk about fashion, and specifically, I really wanted to talk about the whole division of fashion. I do understand that there is this sort of movement of fashion towards to degender it. There's non-binary people who advocate for degendering stuff in general, and trans people, cis people, and etc. And I personally think that when it comes to degendering a lot of items or like degendering the whole world, I am against it. But when it comes to fashion, I do wish there was much more fluidity and we could express ourselves differently for the means of clothing. So when it comes specifically to what we want to dress and what we end up choosing for our daily attire, for, I don't know, monthly attires, whatever, it does end up playing a role in how people perceive us. And I have a hard time with it because I dress quite in your face, obnoxiously usually. And yeah, today I just felt very plain, and that's why I'm in a hoodie and no makeup other than my flawless skin, which has been powdered. But I just wanted to say that I think people take gender and sex way too seriously when it comes to abolishing it. So people say that we'd be better if there were no distinctions, that we'd be better if people wouldn't judge us based on our sex or gender, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't think that we need to abolish everything and everyone should be agender, you know? But that's another thing, and the main thing is still about clothing. So when it comes to clothing, we obviously think, okay, there's two sections, right? So there's the men's, there's the women's. And quickly to recap, obviously women have much more different cuts in their sections. So you have dresses in all shapes, sizes, um, again, different tailoring. You can also have a sort of idea of having the boyfriend jeans, the boyfriend hoodie, and in general, when women take clothes from the men's section, it's not considered something bad, or it's not considered something that should be avoided, or etc. So while when it comes to men, if you go to the women's section, you will be judged, and obviously one of the first times I ever encountered it was back in the UK, like when Topshop and etc. wouldn't allow anyone who wasn't a cis woman properly to go into the woman's clothing, while when I wasn't exactly out as a trans guy, I'd go to the men's and I'd always be allowed there. And I remember I talked to an activist from where I studied, and she was a lesbian, and she said that she wouldn't be comfortable like with anyone or even trans women to go there because, well, the usual term JK shit. And I would say I wish it changed, but it didn't for the UK. So you kind of have those strict divisions. But when it comes back to clothing, then we go to the men's, and you have baggier stuff. And right now, I feel like before we had these douchey tank tops, we had different, um, sleeveless shirts. So you kind of see a lot of people arguing that there's skirts, Mannings instead of leggings or whatever. I forgot the terminology. Eyeliner for makeup and etc. But at the end of the day, when you go to these high street stores, well, at least I don't see them in H&M, I don't see them in Zara, I don't see them in Bershka, I don't see them in Pull&Bear. I don't see them in usual European retailers, really. So what people argue about isn't something that is really easily seen for the masses. So in the end, you end up with the same 3 cuts, with the same 2 cuts of t-shirts, and etc. And even when you go into high ends and like browse on Farfetch or whatever, you're gonna see that the cuts are very, very limited. The tailoring is non-existent at this point. It's just the same patterns and that's it. And even when you think about men's fashion, like for instance, the epitome of stupidity for me is when you go to Brazil and you go to a mall and you see guys wearing shorts and Tommy Hilfiger, Hollister, Abercrombie, I forgot. Anyway, one of those, and with the logos, and that's it. And all of them wear like that. It like that, maybe flip-flops or some smart shoes trainers, and that's it. And that to me is the epitome of the worst fashion choices when it comes for men. I'm sorry if you wear stuff like that, but to me it's like the pops collar and everything. So it's hideous. Please don't do it. If you want my personal recommendation, but then you can say, yo, Jamie, you're saying all this stuff, but you're wearing a hoodie. Yes, I wear a lot of hoodies, and I enjoy my hoodies. But I just feel like people just don't enjoy fashion. And because of that, when you wear like that Tommy Hilfiger logo with shorts, and you just go there to buy the same item all over and over. I mean, if you enjoy that, please, I have nothing against it. But because we get put in these rigid boxes, some people just start dreading the act of shopping. And I also wanted to say that obviously I am talking from a perspective where you can go and you can buy, you can choose. And this is from a very privileged perspective, which also I want to say that in general, shopping, buying clothing, and this struggle is very classicist in general. And in general, fashion is classicist. Fashion is very fatphobic as well. And fashion just puts us into a lot of pressure. And not only that, when it comes to trans people, it's forces a lot of trans people to hate everything that they wear, and the whole idea, like for trans women, they have to a trans woman specifically has to understand how to wear makeup, how to shave. She has to know which color will make her flattering, which color corrector will counter her beard if she's going for lasering and it's taking a while. When it comes to trans guys, you have to think, okay, if you're pre-top surgery, like what will be baggy? What will be comfortable to wear without a binder? How can you pass? How can you not look like a butch lesbian? And etc. So there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of pressure. And then I also wanted to touch on the fast fashion debate, and this is where I get really, really angry. I do understand that there's a lot of studies which say that in certain countries which are more Western, you have a better clothing sort of fabrics. The clothing is made better, the food is better. So like there were a few studies, like even on dishwasher soap, on chocolate, and like in Eastern Europe they would be much worse than in the Western Europe counterpart when it comes to like a Milka bar. And so the Milka bar would cost cheaper in the West, more expensive in the East, but in the East it would cost more while using cheaper products, and it would taste worse as well. So I can imagine that for clothing that can also be the case. So maybe the fast fashion that I consume, or the one that I see, which lasts me for years, is simply because of the location I'm in. So that could be a factor as well. And when people advocate for fast fashion, they really forget that there are people who cannot afford to choose what to buy. So when you advocate for against fast fashion branding, you need to choose something which people can buy. When you want to say go buy second hands, it's more sustainable, etc. You need to see that vintage and second-hand items have been going up in the past years due to like Bella Hadid, Kylie Jenner. Like, sure, you can say, yeah, Jamie, they're wearing like Jean Paul Gaultier vintage pieces. Sure, but at the same time, you do realize that it's not the only designer they were, right? And this whole increase for thrift stores and TikTok flipping, and when people buy oversized t-shirts at a thrift store and then they tailor it themselves into smaller sizes, they are taking away from the sizes that are needed for people. So there's a lot of things. And originally this was going to be a rant about how it's impossible to find clothing, and it really is. And then you're left, like, if you close your eyes and everything and you go into the pigeonhole where I decided to talk about, is that there is no good tailoring for men. And at this point I feel like we're all burnt out of fashion. We just strive to show it as a class status, as a gender thing. And it's not enjoyment anymore these days. While I really wish it was. But at the same time, we're in times of COVID, we're in times of intense poverty. A lot of people had layoffs, people are dying, and etc. But sometimes it's easier to think about certain things, and specifically now when there's a massive fast fashion debate. So I really wanted to say that I really hate the fact that people are pushing people to be sustainable when we should be pushing brands to do such things, such as Lego, for instance, right? So Lego was, or is, right now doing a sustainable block, as in their bricks are going to be sustainable, they're going to be biodegradable, from what I understand. And there was an article about it that I read quite a while ago. And the point is that if a brand like Lego can do that, so can other brands. So when people say, yeah, but you need to do your part, well, okay, you're gonna throw out less, but when there are people who can't afford to do that. There are people who can't just go into the beach and spend hours collecting plastic instead of earning a paycheck to pay for their family. So I do feel like on the opposite, we need to put more pressure on brands. And if we're talking about sustainability. And when it comes to actual problems, I really wanted to say that we have bigger problems in our hands, such as COVID, the mortality rates due to COVID, the fact that people aren't wearing masks. And even here, I've noticed that people are getting a bit more lax, people are checking the vaccination less, but I do understand that it's because in Portugal, we have, even with the booster, we have about 88% of people vaccinated. But please understand that even this topic which I'm talking about is just a small thing, which is a problem indeed. There are bigger problems. But just because I'm reporting what's on my mind, what's bothering me, it doesn't mean that I'm erasing any other problems. And I'm not being American by raising certain things. And I do understand that my viewership is American. So, thank you. So to summarize, we really need to wear whatever section we want. We should take the example from Harry Styles, for instance. We shouldn't be fighting like Billy Porter over who wore dresses first, and we all know it was probably David Bowie or some other person who just picked it up, and back in the ages when men wear dresses as well. So don't be stupid, And if you like this video, please click the like button, click the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed it, please share it around because I actually spent a lot of time on this video. Thank you very much.